We have Larry Fox, the VP of Business Development and Marketing at Bad Elf here. He's going to be helping moderate those questions today. And with that, I want to go ahead and introduce everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about using the Bad Elf Flex and MicroSurvey software for surveying and drafting. Pretty excited today. We've got a couple special guests. First, we've got Jaron Hopf, and I apologize out of the gate if I mispronounce anybody's name. I have a very long name, and I understand that all too well. Jaron is the product manager over at MicroSurvey, handling a lot of their CAD products. We also have Hao Lee. He's the mobile product manager at MicroSurvey. He handles the field data collection side. They're both going to be helping us out today. And so you have the opportunity to ask some insiders, quote unquote, today. So if you have any questions about the MicroSurvey software, we have the experts in the house. Last but not least, my name is Nicholas Milovsky, and I am the Director of GIS Solutions at Bad Elf. If you've been tuning into these webinars, you've probably heard me yak one too many times. Okay, so again, just to keep everybody's time in mind, we're going to try to get this all done in roughly 30 minutes. If we have questions that are exceeding that 30 minutes, we're certainly going to stick around and answer any questions you may have. So the topics and goals today, we're going to briefly review the Bad Elf Flex. We're going to talk about MicroSurvey's Field Genius, MicroSurvey's CAD. We will have a hat contest, so stick around. Everybody who sticks around for the webinar will be automatically entered for a free hat, and then the all-important question and answer session to end it. Roughly 25 minutes of presentation, 5 minutes or more for the moderated Q&A. Okay, so let's talk about the Bad Elf Flex quickly. I'm making some assumptions here that at this point, if you've watched any of these webinars or been following Bad Elf on any of the social media outlets like LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, things like that, you've probably been aware of our new GNSS system, the Bad Elf Flex. We call it the Flex because it is accurate, affordable, and versatile, kind of the three major pillars of how we designed the Flex. It's accurate, and when I say accurate, we can get this unit up to a fully survey grade, engineering grade rover with a good RTK network, getting that 1 centimeter of accuracy. We have many options for the user depending on the spatial accuracy needed and where you are in the world. We have satellite-based corrections. We've got SBAS corrections. We are able to do post-processing, and we are certainly multi-constellation, multi-frequency, meaning that we track all the birds in the sky, aka all the constellations of satellites. We are able to use all of their frequencies. So you are getting the cream of the crop in terms of accuracy when we're talking about the Bad Elf Flex. In terms of affordability, we also priced the Flex to be extremely affordable, so easily integrated into your organization. Depending on what specifications you'd like for the Flex, we have a standard and an extreme version. We also have the ability to use tokens on a daily basis to initiate a standard Flex to extreme Flex. You may be asking what the difference is. Basically, the difference is the type of accuracy you're trying to achieve. One piece of hardware, multiple accuracies, aka flexible. Again, you can see why we named it that. We also have that token system, so a pay-to-play option. We talk to our customers, and a lot of times expensive GNSS equipment sits on a shelf and never gets used. Why pay for all that expensive equipment when you may just need high accuracy a few days a month or year, in which you can buy a very affordable token. Lastly, it's versatile. Easily adaptable to a variety of activities. It's portable, self-contained receiver. You can see it on the screen there or behind me in my video. It's pole mounted either on the rear or the bottom. It's got a 1/4-20 mount plus a 5/8 inch for a standard survey pole. It's got a beast of a battery in it, right? So 12 hours plus, depending on what mode you're using. It's also got a USB on the go. So if you need a back charger, you can easily hook in an additional battery purchased from Amazon. Works with all the different operating systems. So we want to be able to dance with everybody. We're all inclusive, iOS, Android, and Windows. You're going to notice that the Flex is a little bit different. We have screens and buttons. We don't like the black box idea where you just get blinking lights at you. We want you to have a dashboard just like driving a car. You're going to be able to see all the gauges, have a good understanding of what's happening with your Flex. Additionally, to be able to collect some standalone data. But we do recommend, as why we are partnering today with MicroSurvey. MicroSurvey is one of the softwares that we work extensively with. The Bad Elf is integrated into their software specifically, and we are a match made in heaven. Last but not least, yeah, and that was actually my last bullet point, but I just want to mention that it's IP65, so dust and water resistant, very, very tough unit. Okay, so that is the Bad Elf Flex. If you have any specific questions of the Flex, please let us know. Like I said, Larry will be tallying those up to answer at the end of the presentation. So now I'm actually going to pass the microphone over to Hal, and I'm going to mute myself. Hal, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, Nick.
Thanks for that. All right, all you.
Thanks for passing it over, and thanks for the product overview of the Flex there. So just for my talking points here, I just want to give a quick overview of FieldGenius for Android. So what is FieldGenius for Android? It's our brand neutral data collection software geared for surveyors, and it has full survey, stakeout, and GIS functionality. And we do support it being installed on phones and tablets. There is an operating system limitation where your device does need to have Android version 6 or higher. And one of the benefits of our software is it's a map-driven interface. So just looking at this screenshot here, there is a lot of functionality that you can do from the map screen without having to click into additional screens there. If we just move on to the next slide there, I just want to go over getting started with the program. No, that's fine, Nick. So the first thing you do when we open up the program is you're going to want to make a new project here. So just on the right hand, I just have a screenshot just showing the new project screen. So you provide a name, set your units and your angle units, and then set up your coordinate system and a vertical system, and apply your code and feature list. If you just move on to the next slide, I just have a video just going over setting up a project here. I'm just going to give it a name, and I've already set up the distance and angles for what I'm expecting, and I do want to apply a geoid file. So we do have a built-in geoid catalog, so as long as you do have internet connection, you can browse into our catalog and download the geoid for your specific region there.
That's a super handy one, rather than needing to go do it on the computer.
Yeah. So that's just setting up a project. And if we move on, afterwards, just going through the instrument configuration, we'd set up the Bluetooth and then go through setting up the correction source for where you're going to receive your RTK corrections. And afterwards, just completing the instrument profile with your set antenna height and setting up the active tolerance that you want to set. And I just have a quick video here just going through configuring the Bad Elf Flex. So you just choose your make and model, and we do default a profile name there, which can be changed. And we just find the Bluetooth. And then here's where we'd set up the N-trip caster information for the data source.
So with that no RTK option, can you collect standalone data without that connection?
Yes. So if you could set it up if you just want to receive autonomous corrections, you would just do no RTK. Or if you are using an external third-party app, to stream corrections and it's already receiving corrections, you could set it to that no RTK option and not use Field Genius to be streaming the corrections through the application. And then once you're set up, it just shows, if you just go back there. So after you're set up, it just zooms you to your current location there, and hopefully Nick's not actually there today. So we just move on. So after instrument configuration, then we're ready to start observing points. So the first thing you're going to want to do is set a code. So just at the bottom of the slides there, I just mapped out the workflow. So from the map view on the left-hand side, we click into the bottom topo toolbar is what we call it, where it says no code, and that will bring you into your codes page. Here's where you could search for a code. If there's not one already in your code list, you could add it and set it to be used there, and that'll just bring you back to the map screen, and you're ready to start collecting points. And if we just move on to the next slide, I just have a quick demonstration here of going through that process. So I'm just going to go through just reconfiguring my existing tolerance setting just to add some additional observations. And then I'll just go into my code list to set a code for a fire hydrant, which is what I was collecting at that time. And then once we set the code on the right-hand side where it says RTK fix, that's our observe button.
Nice and easy to hit with your phone.
And then afterwards, I'll just tap on the map for that point specifically, and I'll edit the point. And I did end up taking a photo that I want to tag to this point. So if you've already taken the photo, you can just browse and add it to the point. Or if you want to take the photo after taking the observation, you could hit that take photo option to take the photo. So that's just going over storing points. And if we move on to the next slide, just for setting up lines. So for line, just on the screenshot here is just a different method for setting your code. So on the left-hand side, we have what we call our data panel. And where I'm in right now is the codes list. So from here, you could have a flyout and it just shows the codes that are here. So instead of using that topo panel that I previously showed in the storing points, this is a flyout panel for you to bring the list for you to scroll through to select. So we just move on to the next slide. I have a video here just going over showing that using the data panel to set our back of walk line code. And then I'll just take that first point to start the line. And then as I start walking, you'll see a construction line displaying where I'm walking towards for the next vertex to store that line. I'll just have to update my position on the map there. And then here, if I'm walking up to a curve, so I'll select on that to toggle on that I am walking to the middle of a curve there, and I'll take that shot, and then you'll see it automatically updates back to a straight line segment, and then it'll prompt me to walk to the end of that curve, and then you'll see the construction line update to show that arc. And after you've taken that third point, it creates the arc there for you. We can move on to the next slide there. And then attribute collection. So it is very similar to points and lines. You set your GIS point or line code through either the code list or the data panel. And then from the screenshot here, you can see that we do specifically have GIS tagged for GIS points, and then GIS line for differentiating survey codes and GIS codes and lines in the list there. So you would just select your GIS point or line from that list and then start observing. So if we just click to the next slide, I just have a video demonstration going through attribute collection here. So just like storing and setting up a point or line, we select the GIS code, observe the point, and then afterwards here's where we would add the attributes that it's asking for.
I think that might be the end of your video, or pause there, huh?
What is it still playing through there, Nick? Oh, there must have been some
There we go.
technical. All right, this would be going through storing a GIS line. So we'd set the line code, and because this is a tree line, I did have some high PDOPs, and then here's where we'd add the line attributes and save that. And then all of your following points for that line will have those attributes that you just set.
Now, from the Arbor Day presentation, you remember Nick is a certified arborist. He must have picked up that tree line just for him.
Yes, I did. And then after, I'll just demonstrate here exporting our attributes to a shapefile. And the nice thing with exporting with the share file, you can share it straight to Google Drive or just email it to yourself from within the application.
This is one of the coolest things about having an Android application.
It just
No
cuts
more of that.
down from using a USB thumb drive and doing the manual transfers, which just
Right.
helps make it a lot more efficient.
Yeah, rather than the old survey controller style where you come back to the office and plug it in, you can send it directly from the controller to the office.
Yeah. And that's the overview and getting started with Field Genius for Android. So I'll just mute myself and I'll let Jared speak.
Thanks, Hal. Sorry for talking your presentation there. I just like to talk. So, thanks, everybody. A lot of you probably haven't heard of MicroSurvey CAD before. That's one thing we come across occasionally, especially down in the States. So what are we? We're based on IntelliCAD. Much like one of our competitors is Carlson. If you're familiar with their software, it would be very similar to that. We have AutoCAD versions available, but our primary version is based on IntelliCAD. And it's a drafting platform with surveying functionality built into it. So you've got all your standard line drawing and circles and arcs and whatever, the whole 9 yards through the drafting platform with IntelliCAD. But then on top of that, we add in a whole host of different coordinate systems, COGO or coordinate geometry, such as your bearing intersections and bearing distance intersections and that sort of stuff. Some smart annotations. I'll touch on that a little bit later, but what those will do is if your point moves from the endpoint of your line, the annotations like your bearing and distance along that line will automatically update to match that line work or to match the point move. We've got field to finish solution in there. We call that Automap. So that's where you measure the codes in the field, like Hal was just demonstrating, and it automatically draws the line work in the program based on predefined settings, such as like a hatch or a line type or something like that for the trees. We provide survey adjustments, a Helmholtz adjustment to get things moved into place from one location to another, 5 or 6 different types of adjustments, like the compass rule adjustment and the least squares adjustment and other ones like that, and angular balance. We've got parcel closures on there, or lot closures, if you want to call them that, where it's taking those annotations around the line work, like your bearing and distance, and taking any rounding errors into account and determining the ratio of closure for the whole lot. We've got surface modeling in there, so you can grab a surface and compare it to another one and compute volumes, as well as create design surfaces and that sort of thing. And then we've got GIS attribute handling, as How just showed in the field software there. We can bring in those attributes and use them in various places in our software. If you could switch to the next one there, Nick. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to set up our coordinate system units. Background imagery is another one I didn't touch on, but we've got that as well. And we're going to bring in existing survey data. If you could hit the next one there, Nick. Then from the export from Field Genius, we're going to import ASCII. If you're not familiar with that format, that's the old school notation for CSV. Or other text-based formats like that. So we can import a range limit. So if you only want to bring in a few points out of that field data, you can do that. Import that range limit from point 1 to point 10, or whatever you've done in that day. You can add an additive number, so you're not overwriting existing points in your project. And on the import, you can actually do a coordinate transformation. So say you pick them up in the field in, I don't know, Arizona 83 Central, and you want to put them in Arizona East or something like that. You can do that. If you want to hit next. This is the Automap system that I had mentioned. You can set line work, symbols, and colors through here. Different rotations of symbols, like you can randomly rotate symbols if you want to put a tree on your different tree points, but not have it look exactly the same every time you put it on. We do some other cool things, like being able to scale them on import here. So with the code, you can enter a specific format for it, so it will scale that symbol to whatever number you put in after that. Just a few different things like that. And then if you want to hit next again, we're going to process the connections, which I don't think this one was a video. Nope. So that will bring in all that line work as previously described from the field software there. So next, to import the file from Field Genius, we want to import a shape file. So that's what that looks like there on the left. That's the dialog that pops up. You can select your coordinate system for the file you're bringing in, and you can select your drawing coordinate system and units. And if you want to apply an elevation to features in that shapefile, we have that option there. There's a little drop down where you can select the attribute that contains the elevation. So the example that this was originally designed for was contour lines. Somebody was bringing in contour lines from a state service, and the elevation was not applied to the objects themselves, but there was an attribute value that had the elevations on them. So that allowed them to bring them all in elevated to where they needed to be. Using the node settings on there, you can add points directly to the survey database in the MicroSurvey CAD on import, and you can select the point ID attribute that you want to use for that. So that comes out of Field Genius, and we can set the name point attribute for that. As you can see in the bottom center there, the name contains the point number, and over on the right side, that is imported in with the point ID of 2802, the elevation 424.3, and the code description is FP OS. Trying to hit next there, Nick. Thank you. Next, we want to label the attributes. So within the Automap settings, we also have a button down at the bottom there called attribute labels. We'll go into that and define the labels. Based on the code that it uses, you can pick an attribute value from those that are available. You can see on the dialog there for it, you can set a prefix or suffix, the location for that label, rotation, layer you want to put the label on, and the color for it, as well as the text style. And you can save this and the Automap file and distribute those throughout your company so that you can kind of be standardized across if you've got a bunch of people doing this. If you want to hit next. And then we'll go back to the Automap library. This is how you originally access the Automap dialog. I didn't really show this in the first place, but you've got a list of them here and you double click on them to edit them. I'll click on that process attributes button, and then all of the attributes are drawn in underneath or wherever you place them. Underneath the point there. All right, next GIS feature we've got in MicroSurvey CAD, we've got the filter attributes. So this allows you to set a filter for display of the points and other objects in your drawing that are brought in with GIS data. So as you can see there, the tree line that Hal picked up, there's the type, coniferous. So if I have several different types of tree lines, all I want to show is coniferous, I can do that just like you do in QGIS or something like that. You can also use that for the import and export shapefile processes in our program. So you can only bring in or only export certain types of data if you choose to do that as well. Hit next there, Nick. And the final one I want to show here, you can export any object to shapefile. So any of the CAD line work, things that you've picked up in the field, previously imported GIS features, those can all be exported to a shapefile format out of MicroSurvey CAD. You can filter your selection so that, like I had mentioned, if you only want to export a certain type of data, you can do that through here as well. Want to hit next. This is a little video here, just a little clip, but we can connect the boundaries picked up by the field crew then, including the smart line work and labels. So you'll see I'm moving this point. Point protection turns on, make sure I want to move that point, and all of the labels stick on the line and update to match the point move there. If you want to hit next, Nick. You can modify those labels and locations. Say you've got a plan you're calculating off of and you want to round that angle or that distance to match, you can do that. And that's where the lot closure comes in. So you can calculate the misclosure ratio on that parcel after you have done that. These labels are automatically drawn when you are in the COGO process. So you can work through that COGO process. It's all actually very straightforward. You can completely run the whole COGO function from the number pad on your keyboard. That is one of the top selling features of our program. It's just hitting numbers and enter, basically. After we've done that, we can switch over to the layout tab, much as you would expect from AutoCAD or something like that. Add your viewports and title blocks and plot away.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. I know this was a quick run through in a 30-minute span, but Jaron, how that was great. I know we've got some questions coming in and we are exactly right at 30 minutes. So want to go ahead and mention again. So of everybody that's attending, we are going to be automatically entering you into a Bad Elf hat contest, and we'll be announcing the winner next week and we'll be in touch. So we really appreciate you following along today. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, sales@bad-elf.com. You can do also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Both Hal and Jaron are on LinkedIn, I know. I am connected with them, and if you have any questions for them, you can send it to me and I'll make sure that they get them. Or if you want to reach out to them on those social media platforms, I am sure they would love to connect. So I am going to...